The rain hammered against the warehouse roof like 1,000 angry fists. Sarah Collins crouched behind a rusted shipping container, her fingers wrapped tightly around her service weapon. Beside her, Max sat perfectly still, his dark eyes fixed on the shadows ahead, ears perked and alert. 7 years. 7 years they'd worked together in the Atlanta Police Department's K-9 unit, and Sarah could read her partner's body language like a book. "Unit 4 to dispatch," she whispered into her radio. "Suspect confirmed inside the building, requesting backup." Static crackled. "Negative, Unit 4. All units engaged. You're 20 minutes out." 20 minutes. Sarah's jaw tightened. The tip had been solid. Marcus Vega, wanted for arms trafficking, was inside this abandoned warehouse near the airport. 20 minutes might as well be 20 hours. Max's low growl vibrated through the wet air. Sarah's hand instinctively moved to his tactical harness, feeling the tension ripple through his muscular frame. Then she heard it too, footsteps, multiple sets, moving with military precision. This wasn't right. "Max, heel," she commanded softly. The Malinois pressed against her leg, ready but controlled. Sarah peered around the container's edge. 4 men emerged from the warehouse's side entrance. They moved like professionals, scanning sectors, weapons held with proper trigger discipline, communication through hand signals. These weren't street-level criminals. Sarah's heart rate elevated. Vega was supposed to be alone. The lead man stopped 30 feet from her position. Even in the rain and darkness, Sarah could see the quality of his tactical gear. Expensive, current military issue. He raised a gloved hand, and his team fanned out in a perfect defensive formation. "We know you're here, Officer Collins," the man called out, his voice carrying a slight European accent. "We've been watching you for some time. Very impressive work, by the way." Sarah's blood ran cold. He knew her name. This was a setup. "Max, guard," she whispered. The dog shifted into attack position, every muscle coiled and ready. "I'm offering you a choice," the man continued, taking a step forward. "Walk away tonight. Forget Marcus Vega. Or," he gestured to his team, "well, there's really only one other option." Sarah's mind raced. If she retreated, Vega would disappear, probably forever. But if she engaged 4 trained operators alone, even with Max, the odds were grim. She glanced at her partner. Max's eyes never left the men, his breathing steady and controlled. In 7 years, he'd never let her down. "Sarah Collins doesn't walk away," she called back, rising from cover, weapon trained on the lead man. "Atlanta PD, drop your weapons." The man smiled. She could see the white flash of his teeth in the darkness. "I was hoping you'd say that." Everything happened in seconds. The lead man dove left as his team opened fire. Sarah dropped behind the container as bullets sparked off the metal, the sharp cracks echoing through the industrial yard. She rolled right, coming up with her weapon raised, and squeezed off 3 rounds. The shooter on the far left went down. "Max, attack!" The Malinois launched forward like a black and brown missile, 75 pounds of trained aggression. He hit the second shooter low, jaws clamping onto the man's gun arm. The weapon clattered to the wet pavement as the man screamed. Sarah moved. Training and adrenaline merged into pure instinct. She fired twice at the third shooter, center mass. He stumbled backward, body armor absorbing the impacts, but not the kinetic force. She was on him before he recovered, driving her knee into his solar plexus. He went down, gasping. A bullet whipped past her ear. The lead man had repositioned, flanking her from behind a concrete pillar. Sarah dove behind an old forklift as automatic fire chewed into the machinery. She could hear Max growling, still engaged with the second shooter. "Max, release, come!" The dog immediately disengaged, sprinting to her position with his ears flat against his skull. Sarah's magazine was nearly empty. She ejected it, slamming a fresh one home. 4 shooters, 2 down, 2 active. Her backup was still 15 minutes away. The lead man's voice carried across the yard. "Impressive, but you're outgunned and outmaneuvered." Sarah studied the environment. The warehouse entrance was 20 yards to her left. If she could reach it, the close quarters would negate some of their advantages. But between her and that door was open ground, a kill zone. Unless... She looked at Max, then at the row of old drums stacked near the warehouse. Max, find. The Malinois understood instantly. He darted left, away from the warehouse, drawing fire. Sarah broke right, sprinting low and fast. Bullets chased her path, but she was already moving, already thinking 3 steps ahead. She hit the drums and shoved hard. They toppled, rolling and crashing across the yard, creating chaos and cover. Sarah reached the warehouse entrance as the lead man repositioned. She fired 4 rounds, forcing him back, then disappeared into the darkness of the building. "Max, come!" The dog was through the door in a heartbeat. Inside, the warehouse was a maze of old machinery and crates. Sarah's eyes adjusted quickly to the dimness. Emergency lights cast long shadows. She moved deeper into the structure, Max at her side, both of them silent. "You're only delaying the inevitable," the lead man called from outside. "We have you contained." Sarah didn't respond. She was scanning, analyzing, planning. Near the back of the warehouse, she spotted an office area elevated on a metal platform, high ground with multiple sight lines. She and Max climbed the stairs quickly, each step measured and quiet. From the office, she had a commanding view of the main floor. The lead man entered cautiously, his remaining partner covering the entrance. They moved with discipline, clearing corners and checking blind spots. Sarah's respect for them grew, even as she prepared to take them down. She keyed her radio. "Unit 4 to dispatch. Officer under fire. Warehouse on Fulton Industrial. Multiple armed suspects. I need backup now." "Units responding," came the immediate reply. 8 minutes. 8 minutes, an eternity. The lead man had stopped below her position. He tilted his head slightly, as if listening. Then, incredibly, he smiled up at her hiding spot. "You know what, Officer Collins? You're exactly what they said you were, tenacious, brilliant under pressure, and completely unwilling to quit." "Who's they?" Sarah called back. "People who've been watching you. People who believe you're capable of much more than chasing street criminals through Atlanta." He lowered his weapon slightly, not surrendering, but reducing the immediate threat. "This was a test, Officer Collins, and you passed." Sarah's grip on her weapon didn't waver. "A test that killed how many people? No one's dead. Check your targets, all wearing body armor, all still breathing. Even the one your remarkable partner took down." He gestured at Max. 7 years together, and you move like one organism. That's rare. That's valuable." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. The man reached slowly into his jacket. Sarah's finger tensed on the trigger. He withdrew a single business card, placing it on a crate below her position. "Someone wants to meet you, Officer Collins. Someone who can offer you a chance to serve at a much higher level. The card has a time and place. Come alone. Bring Max. And if I don't?" His smile returned. "Then you'll spend the rest of your career writing parking tickets while the real threats to this world go unchecked. Your choice." The sirens were close now, maybe a minute away. The man gestured to his partner and they moved toward a side exit with practiced efficiency. At the door, he paused and looked back. "By the way, Marcus Vega is in the office where you're standing, zip-tied and unconscious. Consider him our gift, and Officer Collins." He touched 2 fingers to his forehead in a casual salute. "We'll be watching." Then they were gone. Sarah remained in position, weapon raised, until the first patrol cars screeched into the yard. Only then did she lower her gun and look behind her. Sure enough, Marcus Vega lay unconscious in the corner of the office, secured and helpless. Max whined softly, pressing against her leg. "I know, boy," Sarah whispered, staring at the business card on the crate below. "I know." 3 days later, Sarah stood outside a nondescript brownstone in an affluent Atlanta neighborhood. The address on the card had led her here. A quiet street where million-dollar homes sat behind manicured lawns and privacy hedges. Max stood beside her, his tactical harness replaced with a simple collar. She'd followed the instructions. Come alone. Tell no one. Every instinct screamed this was a mistake. She knocked. The door opened immediately. A woman in her 50s, professional and polished, smiled warmly. "Officer Collins, right on time. Please come in. Max is welcome as well." The interior was elegant but understated, hardwood floors, tasteful art, expensive furniture that suggested wealth without flaunting it. The woman led them through a hallway to a study at the back of the house. She opened the door and stepped aside. "Someone very special wanted to meet you." Sarah entered the study. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined the walls. A desk sat near a window overlooking a private garden, and sitting in a leather chair, holding a glass of what looked like scotch, was a man she'd seen in countless films. James Bond stood, setting down his glass. He was older than his movie portrayals, his hair greying at the temples, but his presence filled the room. Those famous eyes studied her with an intensity that made Sarah feel simultaneously evaluated and understood. "Officer Sarah Collins," he said, his British accent refined and unmistakable. 7 years in the K9 unit, 83 successful operations, 0 partner casualties, 16 commendations for valor. And 3 days ago, you took down 4 trained operatives while protecting your partner and securing a high-value target. He smiled slightly. "I've been doing this for a very long time, Officer Collins, and I've never seen anyone quite like you." Sarah found her voice. "You sent those men to test me." "I did. I apologize for the deception, but I needed to see you under real pressure. The warehouse was controlled. Everyone knew the rules, but you didn't. And that was the point." He gestured to a chair. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." Sarah sat, her hand instinctively resting on Max's head. The dog settled beside her chair, alert but calm. Bond returned to his seat. "I'm retiring, Officer Collins. After 30 years of service, it's time for someone else to carry the torch. Someone younger, someone with fresh perspectives and new skills. Someone who understands that the world is changing and that we must change with it." "Why me?" "Because you have something that can't be taught. An absolute unwillingness to abandon those who depend on you. In 7 years, you've put yourself at risk countless times to protect your partner. That loyalty, that bond, is the foundation of everything we do in this business. Without it, all the training and technology in the world means nothing." He leaned forward slightly. "I'm offering you a position, Officer Collins. Not with Atlanta PD, not with the FBI or CIA. Something beyond national boundaries, something that operates in the shadows to prevent catastrophes before they happen." Sarah's heart pounded. "You're talking about MI6. You're talking about becoming a 00 agent," Bond finished. "Specifically 07. My number, my legacy, and if you accept, yours." The room seemed to tilt. Max whined softly, sensing her emotional turmoil. "I'm a cop," Sarah said quietly. "I chase criminals. I testify in court. I follow the law. And you're brilliant at it. But imagine applying those skills to threats that would never see a courtroom. Terrorists planning attacks on civilian populations, arms dealers selling nuclear materials, human traffickers operating across international borders. The kinds of enemies that don't play by rules and can't be stopped by conventional law enforcement." Bond stood, moving to the window. "The warehouse wasn't just a test of your combat skills, Officer Collins. It was a test of your judgment. You could have retreated. You could have waited for backup. Instead, you assessed the situation, adapted your tactics, and achieved your objective against superior numbers. That's not just courage. That's the kind of operational thinking we need." "And Max?" Bond turned back to her, and for the first time his expression softened. "Max is part of the package. In fact, he's one of the main reasons I chose you. Our enemies are increasingly sophisticated. They use technology, encryption, and misdirection. But they can't fool a properly trained K9. Max gives you an advantage no other agent has ever possessed. Plus," he added with a slight smile, "I understand the bond between partners. I've had a few of my own over the years." Sarah looked down at Max. 7 years of trust. 7 years of having her back. Could she really take him into a world even more dangerous than Atlanta's streets? As if reading her thoughts, Bond spoke again. "I won't lie to you. It will be harder, more dangerous, and there will be times when you can't see a way out. But together, You and Max could save thousands of lives, perhaps millions. Isn't that worth the risk? Sarah met his gaze. She thought about the last 7 years, the criminals they'd caught, the drugs they'd seized, the victims they'd protected. It had been good work, important work, but Bond was right, the scale was limited. What if she could do more? What if she and Max could make a difference at a level she'd never imagined? When do we start? She asked. Bond's smile was genuine and warm. Tomorrow. Welcome to a new world, 007. The training facility didn't exist on any map. Located somewhere in the Scottish Highlands, the compound sprawled across 50 acres of rugged terrain, hidden behind layers of security and misdirection. Sarah had been flown here on a private jet, blindfolded for the final approach. When the blindfold came off, she found herself standing in front of a sleek, modern building that looked more like a luxury resort than a spy training center. "Welcome to the farm," Bond said, standing beside her, "though that's a rather American term. We prefer to call it the Academy." Max sniffed the air, tail wagging slightly. The Highland wind carried scents of heather and pine, wild and clean, compared to Atlanta's urban smells. A tall woman in tactical gear approached, her stride confident and purposeful. She had the bearing of someone who'd seen combat and thrived in it. "Commander Bond, the facility is ready." "Excellent." Bond turned to Sarah. "This is Elena Rostova, former Spetsnaz, now head of physical training. She'll be working closely with you for the next 3 months. Elena meets Sarah Collins and Max." Elena's sharp eyes assessed them both. 7 years of K9 work. Impressive record, but this won't be like anything you've experienced, Officer Collins. We're going to break you down and rebuild you. You'll learn to think differently, move differently, and operate in environments where one mistake means death. Sarah met her gaze without flinching. "I'm ready." "We'll see." Elena's expression remained neutral. "Follow me." The first week was hell. Elena hadn't exaggerated. Every skill Sarah had developed as a cop was dissected, analyzed, and either refined or replaced. Her shooting stance, too rigid; her tactical movement, too predictable; her hand-to-hand combat, effective for street encounters, inadequate for trained assassins. "Again!" Elena barked as Sarah picked herself up from the mat for the 15th time that morning. They were in the combat training room, a space padded floor to ceiling. Max watched from the sidelines, his eyes tracking every movement. Elena came at her fast, a combination of strikes that Sarah barely blocked. The Russian woman was 10 years older, but moved like liquid steel. She swept Sarah's legs and followed with a strike that stopped an inch from Sarah's throat. "Dead, 3rd time this session." Eleanor extended a hand, pulling Sarah up. "You're fighting like a cop. Cops try to control and subdue. We need to neutralize and eliminate. Different mindset." Sarah wiped sweat from her face. "Show me again." Elena's expression softened slightly, the first hint of approval Sarah had seen. "Better. You don't quit. That's good. Watch." For the next hour, Eleanor demonstrated techniques that blended multiple martial arts disciplines. Krav Maga's brutal efficiency, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu's ground control, Muay Thai's striking power. Nothing flashy, everything designed to end fights quickly. By the end of the session, Sarah could barely stand. Elena tossed her a towel. "Tomorrow we add weapons integration, and next week Max begins his advanced training. Rest tonight. You'll need it." As Sarah limped toward the dormitory, Bond fell into step beside her. "How are you holding up?" "I've had easier days," Sarah admitted, "but I can handle it." "I know you can. That's not why I'm asking." He paused at the entrance to the main building. "This life, it changes you, Sarah. It has to. But the core of who you are, that partnership with Max, the reason I chose you, don't lose that. Don't let the training make you forget why you're here." Sarah watched Max trot ahead, his movements easy and relaxed despite the long day. "I won't. That's a promise." Bond nodded. "Good, because tomorrow things get interesting." The next morning, Sarah was awakened at 0500 by an alarm that sounded more like a bomb siren. She rolled out of bed, muscles screaming in protest, and found Max already at the door, alert and ready. A note had been slipped under her door. Full tactical gear. Courtyard. 5 minutes. ER. Sarah dressed quickly, pulling on the black tactical suit they'd provided. It fit perfectly, made from some advanced material that was both flexible and protective. Max's new harness waited on the table, sleek, black, embedded with technology she didn't fully understand yet. She secured it around his chest, and LED lights flickered to life. They made it to the courtyard with 30 seconds to spare. Elena stood waiting, along with 4 other instructors Sarah recognized from various training sessions. Behind them, a large military helicopter's rotors began spinning up. "Load up!" Elena shouted over the increasing noise. "This is a live training exercise. You'll be inserted into a hostile environment and must navigate to an extraction point 12 miles away. You'll face opposition, other trainees playing enemy forces. They'll be using simunition rounds. They hurt, but they won't kill you. Probably." Sarah climbed into the helicopter, Max at her side. The other instructors followed. As the aircraft lifted off, Eleanor handed her a tactical tablet. "You have a target package. Retrieve it and get to the extraction point. You have 4 hours. Fail, and you start the entire 3-month program over from day 1. Sarah studied the tablet. The target was marked in a forest valley 10 miles north. The extraction point was south, in the opposite direction. She'd have to move fast, avoid detection, secure the package, and then evade pursuit while covering significant ground. "Time starts when you hit the ground," Elena said. "Good luck." The helicopter descended fast, military-style insertion. Sarah and Max were out the door before it fully landed, hitting the ground running. The aircraft was gone within seconds, leaving them in a dense pine forest at dawn. Max immediately went to work, nose to the ground, reading the environment. Sarah pulled up the tactical map on her tablet. The terrain was brutal. Steep hills, thick vegetation, and limited sightlines. Perfect for ambushes. She keyed her radio. "Command, this is Collins. Acknowledging mission parameters." No response. Of course not. In the field, she'd be alone. Might as well start getting used to it. "Max, scout." The Malinois moved ahead, staying within visual range, but covering ground faster than she could. His new harness had a camera feed that transmitted to her tablet. She could see what he saw, a remarkable advantage. Together, they moved north, fast and quiet. 30 minutes in, Max froze. His ears pinned back, body low. Sarah immediately took cover behind a fallen log. On her tablet, she saw what Max's camera had captured. 2 figures in tactical gear, positioned on a ridgeline overlooking their approach. Ambush. Sarah studied the terrain. She could backtrack and circle around, but that would cost time. Or she could use the ambush against itself. She pulled up the tactical options on her tablet, found what she needed, and smiled. "Max, distract." The dog understood. He moved left, deliberately making noise, drawing attention. On the tablet, Sarah watched the 2 ambushers shift position, tracking Max's movement. She went right, climbing the ridge from the opposite side, silent and fast. The first ambusher never saw her coming. She dropped him with a combination Elena had drilled into her yesterday. Strike to the nerve cluster in the neck, follow with a leg sweep. He went down without firing a shot. The second ambusher spun, weapon coming up, but Max was already moving. The dog hit him low and hard, simunition rifle clattering away. "Clear," Sarah called. Max released and returned to her side. The ambushers stood, rubbing sore spots but grinning. "Nice work," one of them said, "but you've got 3 more teams between here and your target." Sarah and Max were moving before he finished speaking. The next hour was a blur of tactical movement and brief, intense encounters. Each ambush team was better than the last, pushing Sarah to use everything she'd learned. The Russian woman's training proved invaluable. Sarah moved differently now, thought differently, anticipated threats before they materialized. Max was extraordinary. His new harness included sensors that detected motion and heat signatures, feeding information to Sarah's tablet. Between his natural instincts and the technology, they had an edge that traditional operatives lacked. They reached the target site, a small cabin in the valley, with 90 minutes elapsed. Sarah approached carefully, Max clearing the perimeter. Inside, she found a metal case chained to a support beam. The lock was sophisticated, but her training had included basic field cracking. She had it open in 2 minutes. Inside was a simple data drive. Sarah secured it in her tactical vest and keyed her radio. Package secured. Moving to extraction. The response crackled immediately. Acknowledged. Be advised, all pursuit teams are now converging on your position. You have 2 hours to cover 12 miles. Good luck, 07. Sarah froze. That designation, 07, they were already using it. No pressure. Max, let's move. The journey to extraction was the hardest 12 miles of Sarah's life. The pursuit teams were relentless, professional, and now they knew exactly where she was heading. She and Max used every trick they knew. False trails, backtracking, water crossings to confuse scent tracking. The terrain fought them at every step. Steep climbs, dense undergrowth, rushing streams. With 30 minutes remaining and 3 miles to go, they ran into the final obstacle. A team of 6 operatives had formed a defensive line directly between Sarah and the extraction point. There was no way around. The terrain funneled everything through this narrow valley. Sarah assessed the situation from cover. 6 trained operatives, elevated positions, overlapping fields of fire. Tactically, it was suicide to attack directly. But she had one advantage they didn't expect. She pulled up Max's harness controls on her tablet, accessing features she hadn't used yet. The technical briefing had been quick. Smoke grenades, flash-bang capability, even a small drone that could be deployed from the harness pack. Sarah selected the drone option. A small quadcopter launched from Max's harness with a soft whir, climbing quickly. Sarah piloted it through the tablet interface, sending it toward the defensive line. The operatives tracked its movement, weapons following the drone. "Max, smoke!" 2 canisters deployed from the harness, filling the valley with thick grey clouds. Sarah was moving before the first operative could call out a warning. She came through the smoke low and fast, taking down the first guard with a slide tackle that Elena would have applauded. The second guard swung his weapon toward her, but Max was already there, hitting him from the blind side. The smoke, the chaos, the speed of their assault, it all worked together. Sarah and Max moved through the defensive line like shadows, engaging only when necessary, bypassing when possible. Within 90 seconds, they were through and sprinting toward the extraction point. The helicopter was already descending when they broke from the tree line. Sarah and Max dove through the open door as ammunition rounds sparked off the aircraft's armored hull. The helicopter climbed hard and fast, leaving the pursuit teams behind. Elena sat across from Sarah, a slight smile on her usually stern face. 1 hour, 47 minutes, package secured, 0 critical hits. And you used the K9 tactical integration better than anyone expected. She extended her hand. Well done, Agent Collins. Sarah shook it, her chest heaving. That was the evaluation. That was day 8. Wait until you see month 3. The weeks that followed blurred together in a relentless cycle of training, evaluation and refinement. Sarah learned advanced weapon systems, cyber warfare basics, infiltration techniques, and 40 other skills she'd never imagined needing. Max underwent parallel training, detection protocols for chemical and biological weapons, electronic surveillance equipment, even water insertion tactics. They trained in urban environments, learning to blend into crowds while maintaining tactical awareness. They trained in Arctic conditions, desert heat, and jungle humidity. Sarah learned a dozen ways to kill silently and twice as many ways to extract information without violence. She studied international law, diplomatic protocols, and the complex geopolitics that would frame her missions. Bond appeared regularly, observing sessions, offering guidance, and occasionally demonstrating techniques with a skill that reminded everyone why he'd been 007 for 3 decades. He pushed Sarah hard, but never beyond what she could handle. And always, he emphasized the same principle. Technology fails. Intelligence gets compromised. Allies betray you. The only thing you can truly trust is yourself and your partner. Never forget that. In the 10th week, Sarah faced her final evaluation. It was a simulation: infiltrate a facility, extract a target, and escape without detection. She'd be alone. Max would be deployed separately on a different objective. It was the hardest thing they'd asked her to do: operate without her partner. The simulation lasted 18 hours. Sarah infiltrated through a drainage system, avoided a dozen security protocols, located the target in a secure wing, and extracted him through a route she improvised when her planned exit got compromised. She emerged exhausted, bruised, but successful. In the debriefing room, Bond and Elena waited along with M, the director of MI6, a sharp woman in her 60s whose reputation preceded her. "Impressive," M said, reviewing the simulation results. "Your improvisation skills are excellent. Your technical proficiency is above average, and your tactical awareness is exceptional." She looked up, eyes sharp. "But can you make the hard calls? Can you leave someone behind to complete a mission? Can you take a life when necessary?" Sarah met her gaze. "I've been asking myself that for 3 months. The answer is, I hope I never have to find out. But if it means saving innocent lives, if it means stopping a threat that could kill thousands, then yes, I'll do whatever is necessary." M studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Commander Bond, your assessment." Bond stood, moving to stand beside Sarah. "Sarah Collins is ready. She has the skills, the judgment, and the character we need. More importantly, she understands that this work is about protecting people, not glory or adventure. She and Max represent a new kind of operative, one that I believe will be invaluable in the challenges ahead." M turned to Elena. "Major Rostova? She'll be in the top 5% of active agents within a year," Elena said. "Maybe the top 1%. I recommend full certification." M stood, and everyone in the room instinctively straightened. "Then it's decided. Tomorrow you'll undergo the final ceremony. After that you'll receive your first mission briefing." She smiled slightly, a rare expression. "Welcome to the service, Agent Collins. Don't make us regret this." The ceremony took place in a small, private room, deep within MI6 headquarters in London. Sarah wore a formal suit rather than tactical gear, feeling oddly vulnerable without Max at her side. The dog was being fitted with his official service harness in another facility. The ceremony was for human agents only, apparently. M stood at the front of the room, flanked by Bond and several other senior officials Sarah didn't recognize. A small table held a wooden box, its contents hidden. "Sarah Collins," M began, her voice formal and grave. "You have completed the training required for 00 status. You have demonstrated the skills, judgment, and character necessary for this responsibility. Before we proceed, you must understand what you're accepting." She opened the wooden box, revealing a weapon, a Walther PPK, its surface gleaming. A 00 designation means you are authorized to use lethal force in the field. It means you will operate in the shadows, often alone, always at risk. Your successes will rarely be acknowledged. Your sacrifices will never be fully known. You will miss birthdays, holidays, and the normal rhythms of life. You will carry secrets that can never be shared. And you will do all of this because someone must stand between the innocent and those who would do them harm. M lifted the weapon. "If you accept this responsibility, take this weapon." With it comes the designation 007, the number carried by Commander Bond for 30 years. It's a legacy earned through service, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to duty. Sarah thought of the last 7 years with Max. The late nights, the dangerous calls, the constant risk. She thought of the victims they'd helped, the criminals they'd stopped, the difference they'd made. This was the same work, just a larger scale. Same principles, bigger consequences. She took the weapon. M nodded, then did something unexpected. She smiled. "Welcome to the 00 section, 07. May you serve with honor and return safely from every mission. Though," she added with a glance at Bond, "that's been historically difficult for agents with your number." Bond laughed. "She'll do fine. She has advantages I never had." As if on cue, the door opened and Max trotted in, his new harness gleaming black and silver. He went straight to Sarah, sitting at her side, looking up at her with those familiar, trusting eyes. Sarah rested her hand on his head. "Ready for a new adventure, partner?" Max's tail wagged once. That was all the answer she needed. Bond approached, extending his hand. "From 1007 to another. Good luck. And remember, it's not the number that makes the agent. It's what you do with it." Sarah shook his hand firmly. "I won't let you down. I know you won't." Now, Bond's expression turned serious. "Let's discuss your first mission. It's why I accelerated your training. We have a situation developing in Atlanta, your old city. A terrorist organization called the Syndicate is planning something big, and they specifically requested your presence." Sarah's blood chilled. "They know about me. They knew about you before we did. That warehouse encounter 3 months ago. That wasn't random. The Syndicate has been watching you for over a year. They see you as either a potential asset or a threat that needs eliminating. Either way, they've made it clear. If we want to stop their operation, you're the only one they'll deal with." M stepped forward. "The Syndicate is planning an attack during an international summit in Atlanta next month. World leaders from 20 countries will be present. If they succeed, the death toll could be catastrophic. We need you to infiltrate their organization, identify their plan, and stop them." "And if they try to recruit me?" Bond's expression was grim. "Then you do what every 00 learns eventually. You lie, you manipulate, and you become whoever you need to be to complete the mission. Welcome to the shadows, 007. This is where the real work begins." The woman who walked into the underground fight club in East Atlanta bore little resemblance to Officer Sarah Collins. Her hair was dyed platinum blonde, cut shorter and styled aggressively. Heavy makeup concealed her natural features. Contact lenses changed her eye color from green to brown. She wore leather and denim, moved with an arrogant swagger, and answered to the name Sophia Kane, a former military contractor with a dishonorable discharge and a grudge against authority. The cover identity had taken MI6's best forgers 2 weeks to construct. Sophia Kane existed in every database that mattered: military records, credit history, even a sealed court-martial proceeding. To anyone looking, she was real, dangerous, and exactly the kind of person the Syndicate recruited. Max walked beside her, but even he looked different. His coat had been temporarily dyed darker, his tactical harness replaced with a worn leather collar. To observers, he was just a well-trained protection dog. The technology embedded in his new collar was invisible: miniature cameras, audio sensors, and communication equipment that fed directly to Sarah's hidden earpiece. The Fight Club occupied an abandoned warehouse near the railroad tracks. The smell of sweat, blood, and cheap alcohol hit Sarah as she descended the stairs into the main pit. 200 people packed the space, shouting and betting on the fighters in the makeshift ring. Violence as entertainment. Sarah had shut down places like this a dozen times as a cop. Tonight she needed to become part of it. "You Sophia Kane?" A massive man blocked her path, arms crossed over a chest that looked carved from granite. Tattoos covered every visible inch of skin. "Depends who's asking." "Victor wants to meet you. Says you got skills the organization needs." His eyes dropped to Max. "Dog comes too. Boss wants to see what all the fuss is about." Sarah followed him through the crowd, Max at her heel. They climbed a set of metal stairs to an office overlooking the fight pit. Inside, a man sat behind a desk, watching the fight below through a one-way window. He was 50-ish, well-dressed in expensive casual wear, and radiated the kind of calm authority that came from absolute power. This was Victor Kozlov. According to MI6's intelligence, he ran the Syndicate's North American operations. Former FSB, wanted in 6 countries, responsible for at least 40 documented kills, and Sarah's ticket into the organization. "Sophia Kane." Victor turned from the window, studying her with predatory interest. "The woman who beat 3 MPs unconscious during her court-martial. Impressive. Stupid, but impressive." Sarah forced a cocky smile. They had it coming. I'm sure they did. Victor gestured to a chair. Sit, we have much to discuss. Sarah sat, keeping Max between her and the door, tactical positioning disguised as casual behavior. Victor noticed, and his smile widened. You move like someone with training. Good training, not just military basic. Special operations? That's classified. Not anymore. You threw away your career when you decided honor mattered more than orders. Victor leaned back. But the Syndicate values people like you. People who understand that sometimes the system is the problem, not the solution. Sarah had studied his file obsessively. Victor was a true believer. He genuinely thought the Syndicate was fighting against a corrupt global order. That made him more dangerous than a simple criminal. Zealots couldn't be bought or reasoned with. What do you want from me? Sarah asked. Direct, I like that. Victor pulled up a tablet, swiping through files. We're planning an operation, large scale, complex, and we need specialists who can handle security, infiltration, and tactical coordination. Your record suggests you can do all three. Plus, he nodded toward Max, your K9 partner gives you capabilities most operators lack. What's the operation? Need to know basis. First, you prove yourself. We have several smaller jobs coming up. Complete those successfully, and you'll earn access to the main operation. Victor's eyes hardened. But understand this. If you're working for the FBI, CIA, or any other alphabet agency, we will find out. And what happens then? He let the threat hang. Sarah met his gaze without flinching. I spent 7 years following rules, protecting people who didn't appreciate it, and taking orders from politicians who'd never seen real combat. Then I got screwed over for doing the right thing. I'm done with that world. I work for whoever pays and doesn't waste my time with bureaucratic bullshit. Victor studied her for a long moment, then nodded. We'll see. Your first job is tomorrow night. We're moving a shipment through the port. You'll provide security and handle any complications. Show me you're as good as your record claims, and we'll talk about the next step. Payment, 20,000 for tomorrow night. More if you impress me. Sarah stood. Then I guess I better impress you. As she and Max left the office, Sarah keyed the hidden microphone in her collar. Base, this is 007. Initial contact successful. First assignment confirmed for tomorrow night. Port location. We'll report details after site reconnaissance. The response came through her nearly invisible earpiece. Acknowledged, 07. Be advised, we've detected increased chatter about the summit. Timeline may be accelerating. Gather intelligence quickly. Back at her safe house, a modest apartment in a working-class neighborhood, Sarah shed the Sophia Kane persona. She scrubbed off the makeup, removed the contacts, and let herself breathe. Max sprawled on the floor, exhausted but alert. Even the veteran K9 could feel the tension. I know, boy, Sarah murmured, kneeling beside him. This isn't like Atlanta PD. We're in deep now. Her encrypted laptop chimed. Bond's face appeared on the screen, his expression serious. How did it go? Victor bought the cover. I've got a trial run tomorrow night. Port security for a shipment. If I pass, I move up the ladder. Good. But Sarah, be careful. Victor is paranoid and thorough. He'll be watching for any sign you're not who you claim to be. I know. The cover is solid, and I'm maintaining character. Sarah paused. But this is different from anything I trained for. As a cop, I had backup. I had rules. This is the gray area where real intelligence work happens, Bond finished. You'll second-guess yourself. You'll wonder if you're doing the right thing. That's natural. But remember your objective. Stop the Syndicate before they kill thousands of innocent people. Whatever it takes to achieve that, it's justified. Sarah wanted to believe that. But even after 3 months of training, she was still a cop at heart. The idea of breaking laws to uphold them felt wrong, yet the alternative was worse. I'll get it done, she said finally. I know you will. And Sarah, trust Max. He'll sense things you miss. That's why you're better than any other agent we have. The next night, Sarah arrived at the port of Savannah 2 hours before the scheduled shipment. The massive facility stretched for miles. Containers stacked like building blocks, cranes towering overhead like mechanical giants. Max quartered the area systematically, his nose working overtime. Victor had sent 3 other operatives to work the job with her, 2 men and a woman, all former military, all hardened criminals. They introduced themselves with call signs only: Razor, Ghost, and Snake. Lovely. "You're on perimeter," Razor told Sarah, clearly the team leader. "You and your dog patrol the exterior. Anyone approaches who isn't on the approved list, you handle it. Quietly." "Define handle," Sarah said. Razor's smile was cold. "However you want, long as they don't make noise." Sarah nodded, swallowing her disgust. She and Max took up position near the main access road, hidden in shadows between containers. Through Max's camera feed displayed on her modified smartphone, she had eyes on multiple approach vectors. The shipment arrived at 200 hours, 3 unmarked trucks that drove directly to a specific warehouse. Sarah watched through binoculars as Victor himself supervised the unloading. Whatever was in those trucks, it was important enough for the regional commander to personally oversee. Max suddenly went rigid beside her, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Sarah immediately scanned the area. There, 2 figures approaching from the south, moving with the careful steps of trained operators. Not dock workers, not Syndicate, which meant, "Base, this is 007. I have 2 unknowns approaching the site. They're moving like professionals. Can you identify?" The response came quickly. "Negative on identification. No friendly assets in your area. Proceed with caution." Sarah keyed her radio to the Syndicate frequency. "Razor, this is Kane. 2 unknowns approaching from the south perimeter. Intercepting now. Copy. Maintain radio silence unless you need backup." Sarah and Max moved silently through the container maze. The 2 figures were 50 yards ahead, using night vision goggles, communicating through hand signals. Definitely professionals, possibly law enforcement or rival criminals. Max's camera feed showed Sarah everything they were doing. She circled wide, getting ahead of them, then positioned herself in their path. When they came around the corner, Sarah stepped out with her weapon raised. "That's far enough." Both figures froze. In the dim light, Sarah could see their tactical gear, high-end commercial equipment, not police or military issue. One reached slowly for his weapon. "Don't," Sarah warned. Max stepped forward, teeth bared, and the man's hand stopped moving. "Who sent you?" "We're just port security," the first man said, his accent placing him as local. "Checking on reports of suspicious activity." Sarah's earpiece crackled. 07, those 2 are FBI, undercover operation. If you compromise them, it could blow both investigations. Sarah's mind raced. If she let them go, Victor would know something was wrong. If she stopped them roughly, she'd be assaulting federal agents. But if she convinced them to leave willingly... "Port security doesn't carry level 4 body armor and suppressed weapons," Sarah said coldly. "You're either cops or competitors. Either way, you're leaving. Now, or my dog gets dinner, and I get paid double for disposing of bodies." The second agent, Sarah could see the badge clipped to his belt now, raised his hands slightly. "We're leaving, no trouble." Smart choice. Sarah kept her weapon trained on them until they disappeared into the container maze. Then she keyed the Syndicate radio. "Razor, 2 competitors. Convinced them the area was too hot. They're gone." "Good work, Kane. Return to your post." Through her MI6 earpiece, a different voice spoke. 07, those agents are reporting your description to their handler. Your cover could be compromised." "Negative," Sarah whispered. "Sophia Kane's identity includes work as a private security contractor. FBI seeing her at a port facility actually reinforces the cover. Victor will check, find the corroboration, and it'll make me look more legitimate." There was a pause. Then Bond's voice came through. "Clever. You're thinking like a proper spy now. Well done." The rest of the shipment operation went smoothly. Sarah watched as the trucks were unloaded, crates marked as industrial equipment, but her training suggested otherwise. The weight distribution, the careful handling, the security measures, these were weapons, probably military grade, probably destined for the summit attack. When the last truck left, Victor approached Sarah personally. "The FBI agents you scared off, we confirmed their identities. They're running a task force on port smuggling. Your handling of the situation was perfect. They'll report seeing private security, not Syndicate operations." Sarah shrugged. I figured making noise would bring more attention. Better to convince them to leave on their own. Exactly. You think strategically. I like that. Victor pulled an envelope from his jacket. 20,000, as promised, and I have another job for you next week. This one is more delicate. Interested? Depends on the pay. Victor's smile widened. 50,000, and if you succeed, you'll be invited to the inner circle. That's where the real money is, and where we discuss the main operation. Sarah took the envelope, weighing it thoughtfully. I'm listening. Next week, we're extracting someone from federal custody, a scientist who has information we need for the summit operation. She's being held in a secure facility outside Atlanta. You and your dog will handle perimeter security while our team goes in. If anything goes wrong, you're our failsafe. A federal facility. That meant cameras, guards, protocols, everything MI6 could exploit if Sarah could transmit the intelligence. But it also meant the Syndicate was moving quickly. If they needed a scientist for the summit operation, the attack was specialized. Chemical, biological. I'll need details, Sarah said. Building layout, security schedules, extraction timeline. You'll get everything tomorrow. For now, go home and rest. Next week you earn your place in the Syndicate, or you die trying. Victor turned and walked away, leaving Sarah with the envelope and a dozen new questions. Back at the safe house, Sarah uploaded everything from Max's camera to MI6's secure servers. The images of the warehouse, the crates, the operatives. It would all help intelligence analysts piece together the Syndicate's capabilities and intentions. Bond appeared on her laptop screen again, this time with M beside him. Excellent work, 007, M said. We're analyzing the port footage now. Those crates contained military-grade explosives and detonators. Combined with the scientist extraction, we believe the Syndicate is planning a large-scale bombing at the summit. What do you want me to do about the extraction? Sarah asked. If I help them break out a federal prisoner, I'm committing a serious crime. You're going to provide just enough help to maintain your cover without actually succeeding, Bond explained. We'll have MI6 assets inside the facility. When the Syndicate makes their move, we'll ensure they fail, but in a way that doesn't expose you. Victor will think you did your job perfectly, but his team failed. That keeps you in position for the main operation. Sarah nodded slowly. The layers of deception were getting complex, but she understood the strategy. And the scientist? What happens to her? She'll be relocated to a more secure facility under FBI protection. The Syndicate will think she died in the extraction attempt. M leaned forward. Sarah, I need you to understand something. You're our only asset inside the Syndicate. If your cover is blown, we lose our chance to stop this attack. Thousands could die. So whatever you have to do to maintain that cover, within reason, you do it. Understood? Understood. The week passed in a blur of preparation. Sarah maintained her Sophia Kane persona, meeting with low-level Syndicate members, establishing her reputation. Max continued to be her secret weapon. His cameras and sensors provided intelligence that human agents could never gather. She also discovered something troubling. While reviewing surveillance footage from the port operation, she noticed one of Victor's men, an operative called Dimitri, making a phone call during the unloading. The body language was wrong, too careful, too secretive. Sarah enhanced the footage using MI6's software. Dimitri was using an encrypted satellite phone, the same model issued to intelligence operatives. He wasn't Syndicate, he was someone's plant. But whose? Base, this is 007. I have a potential intelligence leak. Sending footage now. She uploaded the enhanced video and waited. Bond's response came quickly. We see it. We're running analysis now. If Dimitri is an asset for another agency, it could complicate things. Different agencies have different objectives. Not all of them align with stopping the summit attack. What does that mean? It means you need to be careful. You're not just playing the Syndicate. You're navigating an intelligence landscape where multiple agencies are running their own operations. Some might see you as competition rather than an ally. Sarah felt ice in her stomach. The mission had just become exponentially more complex. She wasn't just a spy among criminals, she was a spy among spies, and not all of them were on the same side. The night of the scientist extraction arrived cold and dark. The federal facility sat 30 miles outside Atlanta, surrounded by fencing, cameras, and armed guards. Sarah and Max were positioned in the woods a quarter-mile from the main entrance, equipped with long-range communications and a sniper rifle she hoped she wouldn't have to use. Victor's extraction team consisted of 6 operators, led by Razor. They approached the facility at 0300 hours, using night vision and suppressed weapons. Sarah watched through Max's enhanced optics as they cut through the perimeter fence. "All teams, this is Razor. We're going in. Kane, keep the perimeter clear." "Sein copy," Sarah responded, scanning the surrounding area. MI6 had promised assets inside, but she had no idea who they were or what they'd do. The extraction team disappeared into the facility. Sarah tracked their progress through intermittent radio updates. They'd reached the detention block. They'd located the scientist. They were moving toward extraction. Then everything went wrong. Alarms blared. Lights flooded the compound. Gunfire erupted. Real gunfire, not simulated. Sarah's blood ran cold. This wasn't the controlled failure MI6 had promised. This was a genuine firefight. "Razor, what's happening?" "It's a trap. There were agents waiting for us. We're pinned down in the detention block." Sarah's training warred with her instincts. The mission was to maintain cover, not rescue Syndicate operatives. But men were dying, and despite their crimes, they'd trusted her to watch their backs. "All units, this is Kane. I'm coming in. Mark your position." "Negative, Kane. It's too hot. Get out while you—" The radio went dead. Sarah made a decision she'd probably regret. "Max, with me. We're going in." They moved fast, using the chaos as cover. Sarah could see the facility's response team converging on the detention block, at least 20 armed guards. Razor's team was outnumbered 4-1. Sarah positioned herself on a rooftop overlooking the detention block entrance. The sniper rifle felt heavy in her hands. Through the scope, she could see Razor and 2 others pinned behind a concrete barrier, guards advancing from multiple directions. Her finger hovered over the trigger. These were federal agents, doing their jobs, protecting a facility, and she was about to shoot at them to save criminals. But if she didn't, her cover was blown, and the summit operation would proceed without any intelligence to stop it. Sarah took a breath and fired. The round hit the concrete inches from the lead guard's position, close enough to force him back, far enough to avoid actual injury. She fired again and again, each shot precisely placed to suppress without killing. "Razor, you've got 30 seconds. Move now!" The Syndicate team broke from cover, running toward the perimeter. Sarah provided covering fire, forcing the guards to take defensive positions. Max had already located a breach point in the fence. She'd trained him to find structural weaknesses in barriers. Razor and his team made it through, 2 wounded, but all alive. They disappeared into the woods, Sarah and Max covering their retreat. Only when the team was clear did Sarah and Max withdraw, melting into the darkness before the facility could organize a pursuit. 2 miles away at the rally point, Razor gripped Sarah's shoulder. "You saved our lives. That wasn't part of your assignment. You're my team," Sarah said simply. "I don't leave team members behind." When Victor heard about the extraction attempt's failure, but Sarah's heroic actions to save his men, his respect for Sophia Kane transformed into something deeper: trust. "The scientist died in the firefight," Victor told her 2 days later, his expression grim. "But you proved something more valuable than her intel. You proved your loyalty. Welcome to the inner circle, Sophia. Tomorrow, you learn what we're really planning for the summit, and why the world will never be the same after we succeed." Sarah smiled, playing her role perfectly. Inside, her heart pounded. She was in, but the cost of that access, the line she'd crossed at the federal facility, would haunt her long after this mission ended, if she survived it at all. The Syndicate's inner circle met in an abandoned industrial complex on the outskirts of Atlanta. Sarah arrived at dawn, Max at her side, her Sophia Kane persona now second nature. Victor greeted her personally, leading her through rusted corridors to a converted warehouse space that served as the organization's planning center. Inside, 12 people sat around a long table, the Syndicate's leadership. Sarah recognized several from MI6's intelligence files. Dmitri was there, the suspected mole, his expression carefully neutral. Others were unknown, their faces adding to the agency's most wanted database the moment Max's hidden camera captured them. "Everyone, this is Sophia Kane," Victor announced. "She's proven her loyalty and capability. She's earned the right to know our full operational plan." Sarah took a seat, projecting confident calm while her heart hammered. This was it, the moment she'd infiltrated for. The information that would save thousands of lives. Victor activated a large display screen. A three-dimensional model of downtown Atlanta appeared, centered on the Georgia World Congress Center. In 2 weeks, the Global Economic Summit begins. 23 heads of state, hundreds of diplomats, and the world's media, all in one location. He manipulated the display, highlighting specific buildings around the convention center. The Syndicate's objective isn't just to kill these leaders. It's to demonstrate that no government, no security apparatus can protect anyone from determined action. We're going to broadcast their deaths live to the world. Sarah forced herself to remain impassive as Victor continued. "We have operatives placed inside the convention center, catering staff, security personnel, even a translator on the Secretary General's team. Each one is carrying components of a binary chemical weapon. Separately, these components are harmless. Combined, they create a nerve agent that kills within minutes. The ventilation system will distribute it throughout the building." A woman across the table, introduced only as Katya, spoke up. "The beauty of this approach is that standard security screenings can't detect either component. By the time symptoms appear, it'll be too late to evacuate." Sarah's mind raced, calculating. A chemical attack on that scale would kill everyone in the building, not just the world leaders, but journalists, support staff, security personnel, hundreds dead, maybe thousands, and the global chaos that would follow. "What's my role?" Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the horror she felt. "You and your dog will be part of the external security cordon," Victor explained. "When the attack begins, there will be panic, attempted evacuations, emergency responders flooding the area. Your job is to ensure that certain key individuals, specifically the heads of state we want captured, not killed, are intercepted and extracted during the chaos." "Captured?" Sarah's confusion wasn't feigned. Dmitri leaned forward. 3 of the leaders, the American president, the British Prime Minister, and the Chinese Premier, we're taking alive. They'll be used for leverage in Phase 2 of the operation. With them as hostages, we can dictate terms to the entire global community. Sarah's earpiece crackled softly, MI6 monitoring the conversation through Max's audio feed. She could imagine the scramble at headquarters, analysts recording every word, strategists already planning countermeasures. "When do we move the chemical components into position?" Sarah asked, fishing for tactical details. "They're already there," Victor said with satisfaction. "Our operatives have been smuggling them in piece by piece over the last 3 months. By now, enough material is in place for the attack. The final component arrives in 5 days, carried by someone the security services would never suspect." "Who?" Victor smiled. "That's need to know, and you don't need to know yet. What you need to focus on is the extraction protocols. Katya will brief you on the specific routes and timing." The meeting continued for 3 more hours, covering contingencies, communication protocols, and fallback positions. Sarah absorbed every detail, knowing that MI6 was recording and analyzing everything, but one critical piece was missing: the identity of the person bringing in the final chemical component. As the meeting broke up, Sarah noticed Dmitri slip away from the group, heading toward a side corridor. She followed at a distance, Max beside her, ready to provide an excuse if challenged. Dmitri entered a small office and closed the door. Through the window, Sarah watched him pull out his encrypted satellite phone and make a call. She couldn't hear the conversation, but his body language was urgent, almost angry. Max's enhanced audio sensors picked up fragments. Moving faster than anticipated. 2 weeks, not 3. Chemical weapon nerve agent. Extraction teams for 3 primary targets. Sarah's blood ran cold. Dmitri was reporting to someone, but the information he was providing was slightly wrong. The timeline was correct, but he'd said 3 weeks in his report when Victor had clearly stated 2 weeks. Either Dmitri had misheard, or he was deliberately providing false intelligence. But why would a mole provide bad information to his handlers? Sarah keyed her hidden mic. "Base, did you catch that?" Bond's voice came through her earpiece. "We did. We're analyzing now. Return to base for debriefing." Sarah made her exit, declining an invitation from Victor to join the group for drinks. She needed distance, needed to think, needed to report everything she'd learned before the weight of it crushed her. The safe house had never felt more isolating. Sarah stripped off her Sophia Kane disguise, scrubbing away makeup and peeling off the contact lenses. In the mirror, her own face looked back, exhausted, strained, aged beyond her 33 years. Max whined softly, pressing against her leg. Sarah knelt, wrapping her arms around the dog's neck. "It's bigger than we thought, boy. So much bigger." Her laptop chimed. Bond appeared on screen, but this time M was with him, along with several other officials Sarah didn't recognize. 007, excellent work, M began. You've provided us with actionable intelligence on a threat of unprecedented scale. We're coordinating with American, British and Chinese security services now. The summit will be postponed or relocated. No, Bond interrupted, his expression grim. It can't be. Everyone turned to him. M's face hardened. Explain. If we postpone or relocate, the Syndicate will know they've been compromised. They'll scatter, reorganize, and strike somewhere else, somewhere we don't have advance warning. We'll lose our chance to dismantle the entire network. Bond leaned toward the camera. We need to let the summit proceed as planned. You're suggesting we use world leaders as bait, one of the officials demanded. I'm suggesting we use this opportunity to capture every Syndicate operative in one coordinated action. Sarah has provided us their entire operational plan. We can position counter-terrorism teams, intercept the chemical components, and take down the leadership simultaneously. M studied Bond, then turned to Sarah. 007, you're on the ground. What's your assessment? Sarah thought carefully. Bond's right. If we spook them now, they'll disappear and we'll be back to square one. But there's a complication. Dmitri, the suspected mole, he's reporting to someone, and he's providing slightly incorrect intelligence. That suggests whoever he's working for has their own agenda. We've identified Dmitri, another official said, pulling up a file. Dmitri Volkov. He's actually Dmitri Petrov, Russian GRU. He's been undercover in the Syndicate for 8 months. But here's the problem. GRU didn't tell us they had an asset in place. They've been running their own operation parallel to ours. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. So Russian intelligence wants the summit attack to proceed far enough to justify, what? Military action, political leverage? Possibly, M said. Or they want the chemical weapon for their own purposes. Either way, Petrov is a wild card. He could compromise your cover or the entire operation. Bond's expression was darker than Sarah had ever seen it. Sarah, you need to identify the person bringing in the final chemical component. That's our leverage. We can intercept them, replace the component with a harmless substitute, and the Syndicate won't know until it's too late. But we need that identity. Victor wouldn't tell me. He said it was need to know. Then you need to make him tell you. Use whatever methods necessary. We're running out of time. The next 3 days were a carefully orchestrated dance. Sarah embedded herself deeper into Victor's inner circle, volunteering for additional responsibilities, demonstrating unwavering commitment to the cause. She learned the extraction routes, memorized the timing sequences, and identified the safe house locations where the captured world leaders would be held. All of this intelligence flowed back to MI6, building a comprehensive picture of the Syndicate's operation. But the identity of the final courier remained elusive. On the 4th day, opportunity presented itself. Victor summoned Sarah to a private meeting at a restaurant downtown. Just the two of them, no other Syndicate members. Sarah's instincts screamed trap, but she had no choice. The restaurant was upscale, quiet, the kind of place where power brokers made deals over expensive wine. Victor had reserved a private room. When Sarah arrived, he was already seated, 2 glasses of wine waiting. "Sophia, sit. We need to talk." Sarah took the seat across from him, every sense alert. Max lay beside her chair, seemingly relaxed but ready to explode into action. "You've impressed me," Victor began. "In just weeks, you've become indispensable to this operation. That's rare. Usually it takes months or years to earn that level of trust. I've got skills you need, and I believe in what we're doing, striking back at a system that's failed everyone except the powerful." Victor smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "That's exactly what concerns me. You're too perfect, Sophia. Too skilled, too committed, too timely. Almost as if you were designed to be exactly what we needed." Sarah's hand moved subtly toward the weapon concealed in her jacket. Across from her, Victor's posture remained relaxed, but she could see the tension in his shoulders. This was it. The moment her cover either held or shattered. "I don't follow," Sarah said carefully. "I've been doing this a long time. I've seen agents, infiltrators, and traitors. They all have tells, nervousness, hesitation, questions that probe too deep. But you," Victor studied her, "you're different. Either you're the most committed true believer I've ever met, or you're the most skilled operative I've ever encountered. And which do you think I am?" Victor pulled out a tablet and slid it across the table. On screen was a photograph, Sarah Collins, in her Atlanta PD uniform, standing beside Max at a K9 unit graduation ceremony 7 years ago. Sarah's blood turned to ice. "Sophia Kane exists," Victor said quietly. "The military records, the court-martial, the grudge against authority, all real. But Sophia Kane also died in a car accident 6 months ago. Whoever created your cover identity did excellent work. They found someone with the right background and the right appearance. But they made one mistake." He tapped the tablet, bringing up a second image, Sophia Kane's actual photograph from her military ID. The resemblance to Sarah was remarkable, but side by side, the differences were obvious. Different eye shape, different bone structure, different jawline. "You're not Sophia Kane," Victor said. "So the question is, who are you really? And how much of what you've told me is the truth?" Sarah's mind raced through options. Deny everything, but Victor clearly had proof. Run, but the restaurant was probably surrounded. Attack, but that would confirm every suspicion, or tell a truth that was more believable than a lie. "My name is Sarah Collins," she said, her voice steady. "I was Atlanta PD K9 unit for 7 years. Everything I told you about being screwed over by the system, that part was true. I watched criminals walk free on technicalities. I watched politicians protect each other while good cops got thrown under the bus. I watched the system fail over and over again. So you decided to become a criminal yourself. I decided to work outside the system. When your people approached me after the warehouse operation, I saw an opportunity. They offered me Sophia Kane's identity, and I took it. Better to be someone with a military background than a cop. More credible for your organization." Victor's eyes narrowed. "Who approached you? Who created the cover identity?" This was the critical moment, the lie that could save her or doom her. "I don't know his real name. He called himself Marcus. British accent, maybe late 50s. He said he represented a group that was interested in disrupting the global order. He offered me money, purpose, and a chance to make a real difference. So I said yes. Victor leaned back, processing this. And the warehouse operation, where you demonstrated your skills so effectively, was probably a test by Marcus and his people to see if I was worth recruiting. I passed, obviously. Sarah met his gaze directly. Look, Victor, I'm not going to pretend I'm some ideological true believer. I'm in this for the same reason most people do dangerous work, because I'm good at it, because it pays well, and because the alternative is going back to a system I despise. You can trust that. Greed and competence are more reliable than ideology. Victor was silent for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he laughed. You know what? That's the most honest thing anyone said to me in months. Most recruits pretend to care about our cause. You're refreshingly mercenary about it. He raised his wine glass. To honesty, then, and to the operation that will change the world. Sarah clinked her glass against his, her hand steady, despite the adrenaline flooding her system. To the operation. But Victor, if we're being honest, I need to know who's bringing in the final component. If something goes wrong, if they're compromised, I need to be able to adjust our security protocols. Victor studied her again, then nodded slowly. Fair enough. The courier is someone above suspicion. Senator Elizabeth Hartley, chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. She's been on our payroll for 3 years. She'll arrive at the summit as part of the American delegation, carrying the final component in her diplomatic bag. No one will search her. No one will suspect her. It's perfect. Sarah absorbed this revelation, her mind already transmitting the information to MI6 through Max's concealed equipment, a US senator, a traitor at the highest levels. The implications were staggering. When does she arrive? In 3 days. And Sophia, or Sarah, I suppose, thank you for your honesty. It makes me trust you more, not less. Now finish your wine. We have much to prepare. Sarah left the restaurant with Max, her legs somehow still supporting her. She'd survived the confrontation, but at what cost? Victor knew her real identity now. That information could be weaponized against her at any moment. Back at the safe house, the debriefing was intense. Bond and a half-dozen other officials grilled Sarah on every detail of the conversation. The revelation about Senator Hartley had sent shockwaves through the intelligence community. We'll intercept the senator before she reaches Atlanta, decided. Replace her with one of our operatives. No, Bond interrupted again. Too risky. If the Syndicate has any contact protocol with Hartley, a replacement won't pass. We need to let her deliver the component, but we substitute it with a harmless version. The Syndicate won't know until they try to activate the weapon. And Sarah? Asked. Victor knows her real identity now. She's compromised. Actually, I'm more secure than before, Sarah said. Victor thinks I'm a mercenary who happened to use a cover identity. That's more believable to him than a true believer. He respects pragmatism over ideology. Bond nodded. She's right. And we need her in position for the final phase. Sarah, you'll be with the extraction team when the attack begins. That puts you in perfect position to ensure the world leaders aren't actually captured, but you need to be careful. If Dmitri is still reporting to GRU, they might have their own plans for those hostages. The next 72 hours blurred together. Sarah maintained her role, attending briefings, rehearsing extraction protocols, and positioning assets. MI6 worked behind the scenes, replacing the chemical component Senator Hartley was carrying, coordinating with multiple security services and preparing to spring the trap. On the evening before the summit, Victor summoned all Syndicate operatives to the industrial complex for a final briefing. Sarah arrived to find the warehouse transformed, weapons on tables, tactical gear stacked in corners, and a nervous energy that suggested everyone understood tomorrow would be historic. Victor stood at the center of it all, radiating confidence. Tomorrow, we change the world. Remember your training, trust your partners, and know that what we do will echo through history. The operatives cheered. Sarah joined them, playing her role, but her eyes were cataloguing everything: faces, weapons, exit routes. Tomorrow this would become a battlefield. As the meeting broke up, Dmitri approached Sarah. "Walk with me." They moved to a quiet corner of the warehouse. Dmitri's expression was unreadable. "I know what you are," he said softly in English. No accent now. His Russian cover dropped. Sarah's hand moved toward her weapon. "Relax," Dmitri continued. "I'm GRU, you're MI6. We're both here for the same reason, to stop this attack. But my superiors want something in return. When the leaders are extracted tomorrow, Russia wants custody of the Chinese premier. That's non-negotiable. That's not part of the plan. Then change the plan. Or I tell Victor that you've been transmitting intelligence through your dog's equipment." Dmitri's smile was cold. "I've known for a week." The audio signature from his collar gave it away. "I haven't said anything because we're both trying to stop the attack, but if you don't cooperate—" Sarah's mind raced. This was the worst possible complication. GRU was trying to use the crisis for their own geopolitical advantage, and Dmitri held all the cards. "I need to clear this with my superiors. You have until midnight. After that, I make my report to Victor." Sarah left the warehouse with Max, her thoughts churning. The mission had become impossibly complex. Stop the attack, prevent the hostage-taking, manage a rogue Russian agent, and somehow maintain her cover. And all of it had to work perfectly, or thousands would die. She was halfway to the safe house when Max suddenly stopped, growling. Sarah's tactical instincts kicked in immediately. She scanned the area, a quiet industrial street, minimal lighting, no visible threats. Then she saw it, a red laser dot dancing across her chest. Sniper. Sarah dove behind a parked car as the first bullet shattered the windshield above her head. Max was already moving, trained to find cover when Sarah did. More shots, multiple angles, at least 3 shooters. "Base, this is 07. I'm under fire. Multiple shooters." The response was immediate. "Extraction team en route. Your location is 12 minutes out. Can you hold?" 12 minutes, an eternity. Sarah returned fire, controlled bursts that forced the shooters to take cover. But she was outgunned and surrounded. 1 shooter to her north, 1 to her south, 1 on a rooftop to the east. Professional positioning, professional execution. And then it got worse. She heard an engine, a van, approaching fast. It screeched to a stop 30 yards away, and 4 more men emerged, all armed with automatic weapons. "Max, attack!" The Malinois launched toward the van, drawing fire. Sarah used the distraction to move, sprinting to better cover behind a dumpster, but she'd been hit. She felt the burning pain in her left side. Not critical, but bleeding, and definitely slowing her down. The men from the van advanced in a tactical formation. These weren't street thugs. These were professionals, probably Syndicate operatives, sent to eliminate the spy Victor suspected she might be. Sarah's ammunition was running low. Max had disabled 1 attacker but was pinned down behind the van. The extraction team was still 10 minutes away, and Sarah could feel her strength fading with each breath. She keyed her radio one last time. "Base, tell Bond I'm sorry. I tried." Then the industrial complex exploded. The shockwave knocked everyone off their feet. Sarah's head rang as she tried to process what had just happened. The Syndicate warehouse, the one she'd just left 20 minutes ago, it was now a massive fireball, flames reaching into the night sky. In the chaos, a figure appeared beside her. Dmitri. "Come on!" he shouted, pulling her up. "They rigged the warehouse to explode. Victor suspected multiple infiltrators. He's purging everyone." Max appeared, limping but functional. Together they ran as bullets chased them through the industrial district. Behind them, the warehouse continued to burn, and Sarah knew that whatever Victor had planned, it was accelerating. The summit was tomorrow, and Sarah had just lost every advantage she'd gained. The emergency MI6 safe house was a fortified apartment in Midtown Atlanta. Sarah sat on a medical table while a field medic stitched the bullet wound in her side. Max lay nearby, his own injuries being treated by a veterinary specialist flown in specifically for him. The Malinois had taken shrapnel from the explosion. Not life-threatening, but serious enough to require immediate attention. "Hold still," the medic ordered as Sarah tried to reach for her laptop. "We don't have time for this," Sarah growled through clenched teeth. "The summit starts in 8 hours. Victor is still out there, and now he knows we're onto him." Bond entered the room, his expression grave. Behind him came M and a man Sarah didn't recognize, tall, American, with the bearing of someone who'd spent decades in intelligence work. "07, this is Chief Marcus Webb," M introduced. "He's heading up the Joint Task Force for Summit Security. As of 10 minutes ago, all participating nations have agreed to proceed with the operation as planned, using the summit as bait." Webb stepped forward, studying Sarah with calculating eyes. "Agent Collins, I've read your file. Impressive record as a police officer, even more impressive infiltration of the Syndicate, but you're injured. Your cover is blown, and the opposition knows we're coming. I need to know, are you still operational?" Sarah met his gaze. "I'm operational, and I'm the only one who knows all the players, all the positions, and all the angles. Victor trusts me enough to hesitate before killing me. That hesitation is the advantage we need." "Victor thinks you're a mercenary who got caught in his purge," Bond added. "That actually works in our favor. He'll expect you to reach out, trying to prove your loyalty. We can use that." The medic finished the stitches and stepped back. Sarah stood, testing her mobility. The wound burned, but her training had taught her to function through pain. Across the room, Max limped over to her side, his tail wagging weakly. The veterinarian nodded. "He's stable. I've given him pain medication, but he shouldn't be in the field for at least—" "He's coming with me," Sarah interrupted. "We work together or not at all." Webb frowned. "Agent Collins, that dog is injured. He's a liability." "That dog has saved my life 6 times in the last month alone," Sarah shot back. "And he's equipped with intelligence-gathering technology that can't be replicated. Max stays with me. Non-negotiable." M intervened. "She's right, Chief Webb. Max has proven invaluable to this operation. They're a team, probably the most effective operational unit we have right now." Webb studied them both, then nodded reluctantly. "Fine. But if that dog slows down the operation, you pull him out immediately." "Understood." "Understood." For the next 6 hours, Sarah and the task force coordinated the most complex counter-terrorism operation in recent history. The Georgia World Congress Center was quietly evacuated of all non-essential personnel and filled with undercover operatives posing as staff. The world leaders were briefed on the threat, and while several wanted to cancel, the collective decision was to proceed. Stopping the Syndicate required catching them in the act. Senator Hartley had been intercepted at the airport. Confronted with evidence of her treason, she'd broken within minutes, providing detailed intelligence about her Syndicate contact procedures. An MI6 operative with remarkable resemblance to the senator would take her place, carrying the substituted chemical component. "The Syndicate operatives inside the convention center are still in place," Webb explained, pointing at a tactical display. "We've identified 8 of them through facial recognition." "But Sarah, you said there were 12 inside operatives total. We're missing 4. Sarah studied the display, her mind working through possibilities. "The 4 we're missing are the real believers, the ones willing to die for the cause. They'll be the ones who actually deploy the weapon. The other 8 are support, probably don't even know what they're really part of. Can you identify them?" "Maybe. If I can get close enough to the staging areas, Max can detect the chemical residue. Even with the substituted component, there'll be traces of the original material from their earlier handling." Bond leaned over the display. "That means Sarah needs to be inside the convention center, moving freely during the operation. Chief Webb, can you authorize that level of access?" Webb hesitated. "If the Syndicate spots her inside, it could trigger the attack prematurely. If we don't find those 4 operatives, they could have a backup plan we don't know about," Sarah countered. "Victor is paranoid and thorough. He'll have contingencies." After a moment, Webb nodded. "You'll have full access. But Sarah, if this goes sideways, if Victor makes you as an active agent, You're on your own. We can't risk exposing the larger operation to extract one agent." "I understand." The summit began at 10 a.m. Sarah entered the Georgia World Congress Center through a service entrance, dressed as private security, Max at her side in a service vest. To anyone watching, they were just another K-9 team doing sweep protocols. The center was massive, 3 buildings covering nearly 4 million square feet. Somewhere in this complex, Victor and his team were preparing to execute their attack. And somewhere, 4 true believers were carrying components of a nerve agent that they thought was real. Max's nose worked overtime, processing thousands of scents. Sarah had configured his harness to alert specifically to the chemical signatures they'd identified from the Syndicate's weapon. If they got within 50 feet of the compounds, Max would signal. They worked through the service corridors, ostensibly conducting security sweeps, actually hunting for the hidden operatives. Sarah's earpiece kept her connected to the command center, where Webb and Bond coordinated the broader operation. "Agent Collins, be advised, we've intercepted communication indicating Victor is inside the building. Location unknown." Sarah's pulse quickened. Victor was here, personally overseeing the operation. That meant he still believed the attack would succeed. It also meant he was vulnerable to capture. "Copy that. Max and I are moving to the main conference hall. If Victor is here, that's where he'll be." They ascended through a service stairwell, Sarah's wound protesting with each step. Max stayed close, sensing her pain, but remaining focused on his task. They emerged into a corridor behind the main auditorium where the opening ceremonies were taking place. Through the walls, Sarah could hear voices, world leaders addressing the audience, speaking about cooperation and unity. In 90 minutes, Victor believed they'd all be dead or dying. Max suddenly froze, his signal for chemical detection. Sarah immediately scanned the area. A catering cart, unattended, sat near a service entrance to the auditorium. She approached carefully, using her security credentials to access the cart's locked compartment. Inside, concealed among cleaning supplies, were 3 sealed containers. Each one was labeled as industrial degreaser, but Sarah knew better. These were the binary components waiting to be mixed and deployed. "Command, this is 007. I found 3 of the 4 component containers. Southwest Service Corridor, 3rd floor. Copy that. Bomb disposal en route. Do not engage." But Sarah's instincts were screaming. 3 containers, not 4, and they were in a cart, not with operatives. This wasn't the primary deployment method. It was a decoy. "Command, I think this is a diversion. The real attack vector is somewhere else." "Explain." "Victor is too smart to leave the components unguarded in a cart. This is meant to draw our attention while the real operatives move into position elsewhere." Bond's voice came through. "Sarah, you mentioned Victor would have contingencies. What would his backup plan look like?" Sarah closed her eyes, thinking like Victor. If the primary plan was compromised, what would he do? And then it hit her. The fake senator, the replacement operative we put in Hartley's place. Victor will have a security protocol to verify her identity. If she doesn't pass, he'll know we're onto him, and he'll trigger the backup plan immediately. "The replacement operative is scheduled to meet with Victor in 15 minutes, Webb said, his voice tight with tension. "We can't cancel without alerting the Syndicate." "Then we use it," Sarah said, her mind racing. "Let the meeting happen, but I need to be there, close enough to intervene if it goes wrong. Where's the meeting location?" "Private conference room, 2nd floor, east wing." "But Sarah, if you show up there, Victor will know something's wrong. Not if I'm bringing him a gift." 10 minutes later, Sarah stood outside the conference room, Max at her side, and Dmitry Volkov zip-tied and gagged at her feet. The Russian agent had been captured during a staged confrontation, giving Sarah the perfect cover for approaching Victor. She knocked on the door. It opened immediately. One of Victor's lieutenants stood there, weapon drawn. "Sophia, we thought you were dead." "Takes more than an explosion to kill me. I've got something Victor wants." She nudged Dmitry with her boot. The Russian mole caught him trying to contact his handlers. Figured the boss would want to question him personally. The lieutenant spoke into a radio, then stepped aside. He says, "Bring him in. But Sophia, Victor has questions for you too, about your real identity." Sarah nodded, her expression neutral. "I figured he would." The conference room was elegantly appointed, designed for high-level diplomatic meetings. Victor sat at the head of the table, and across from him sat the operative posing as Senator Hartley. Two more armed guards flanked the door. Victor's eyes locked onto Sarah. "Sophia, or should I say Sarah Collins, I wasn't sure you'd survive the purge. Part of me hoped you would. You've been too useful to lose carelessly." "I'm a survivor. It's what I do." Sarah shoved Dmitri forward. The Russian agent fell to his knees, maintaining his cover perfectly. Victor approached Dmitri, studying him. "A GRU agent in my organization. How long have you been reporting to Moscow?" Dmitri's eyes showed defiant anger, completely convincing. Victor turned back to Sarah. "And you captured him? How?" "He got sloppy. Made a call on an encrypted line that I intercepted. Figured you'd want to know before he compromised the entire operation." "Yet you yourself are compromised," Victor said softly. "You're MI6, aren't you? A British agent infiltrating my organization. Everything about Sophia Kane was a cover." Sarah felt every eye in the room on her. This was the moment. Convince Victor, or die trying. "I'm not MI6, Sarah said carefully. "I'm exactly what I told you. A former cop who got tired of the system. Yes, I used a false identity. Yes, I've got connections that help me integrate into your organization. But those connections don't make me a spy. They make me someone smart enough to survive in this world." "Then prove it." Victor gestured to the fake Senator Hartley. "Tell me, is she real?" Sarah looked at the operative, seeing the subtle tells that came from even the best disguise. The posture was almost perfect, but not quite. The facial expressions slightly delayed. Someone trained to mimic, not to be. If Sarah confirmed the fake senator, Victor would know she was working against him. If she exposed the fake, she'd blow the entire counter-operation. Either way, people died, unless there was a third option. Sarah pulled her weapon and shot the fake senator in the shoulder. The room erupted. Guards raised their weapons. Victor dove for cover, and Max launched at the nearest guard. In the chaos, Sarah grabbed the wounded operative and pulled her toward the door. "She's not Hartley," Sarah shouted. "The real senator would never agree to meet in an unsecured location. This is a setup." The confusion was exactly what Sarah needed. She triggered the signal device hidden in Max's collar, the emergency extraction beacon that would bring the entire task force down on this location. Victor rose from behind the table, his weapon trained on Sarah. "Very clever. Create chaos. Trigger your backup. But you're trapped in this room with me, and my people control every exit in this building." "Not every exit," Sarah said. "Max, window!" The Malinois, despite his injuries, launched his 75 pounds at the conference room window. The glass shattered outward. Sarah fired twice more, not at Victor, but at the ceiling, hitting the sprinkler system. Water cascaded down, further adding to the chaos. She grabbed the wounded MI6 operative and Dmitri, shoving them toward the broken window. "Go! Now!" They were 3 floors up, but the exterior of the building had decorative architectural features. It wasn't a clean escape, but it was possible. The 2 operatives went through the window, finding handholds and beginning their descent. Sarah turned to face Victor. Behind him, his guards were recovering, weapons coming up. Max positioned himself at Sarah's side, bloodied but defiant. "You're a remarkable woman, Sarah Collins," Victor said. "In another life, we might have been allies. But you've chosen the wrong side of history." "No, Victor, I've chosen the side that doesn't murder thousands of innocent people to make a political point." Noble words, but meaningless. "My people are already in position. Your interference has delayed nothing. The attack proceeds in 30 minutes, and there's nothing you or your friends can do to stop it." Then the door exploded inward. The task force breach team came through with precision violence, flash bangs, smoke grenades, and overwhelming firepower. Sarah dropped flat, covering Max's body with her own as bullets filled the air above them. When the shooting stopped, Victor and his guards were down, not dead, but neutralized. Sarah stood slowly, her ears ringing from the concussion grenades. Bond appeared through the smoke, weapon still raised. "Sarah, are you hit?" "I'm fine. But Victor said the attack is still happening in 30 minutes. We're missing something." Webb and his team secured the prisoners. Victor, handcuffed and bleeding from a shoulder wound, smiled through the pain. "You think you've won? This was never about me. The operation continues whether I'm here or not." Sarah knelt beside him. "Where are the 4 true believers? The ones carrying the real components?" Victor's smile widened. "They're already in position, and even if you find them, they'll die before they surrender. That's what true believers do." Sarah's mind raced. Think, where would Victor hide operatives that security sweeps wouldn't find? Where could they position themselves to deploy a chemical weapon throughout the entire convention center? And then she understood. The ventilation system. They're not in the auditorium, they're in the HVAC infrastructure. "Command, we need to lock down every air handler in the building now." Webb was already moving, barking orders into his radio. "All teams converge on mechanical rooms. We're looking for 4 hostiles in the ventilation system." But Sarah knew they'd be too late. The convention center's HVAC system was massive, with dozens of access points spread across 3 buildings. Finding 4 operatives in that maze before they deployed their weapon was nearly impossible. Unless you had a partner with a superhuman sense of smell and detection equipment designed specifically for this moment. "Max, search, chemical signature, priority 1. The Malinois, ignoring his pain, went to work immediately. His enhanced nose filtered through thousands of scents, isolating the specific chemical markers. Sarah followed as he moved through corridors, ascending service stairs, diving deeper into the maintenance infrastructure of the massive complex. They found the first operative in a mechanical room on the 4th floor. He was young, maybe 25, wearing a maintenance uniform and standing beside an air handler with a device in his hands. When he saw Sarah and Max, his expression shifted from surprise to resignation. "Stop!" Sarah commanded, weapon raised. "Put the device down!" The operative smiled. "The future requires sacrifice. My death has meaning." He pressed a button on the device. Nothing happened. The substituted component was inert, completely harmless. The operative's expression shifted to confusion, then horror. "It's over," Sarah said quietly. "Surrender. It doesn't have to end with your death." But the young man pulled a knife, screaming and charging. Sarah had no choice. She fired twice, center mass. He went down. "Command, first operative neutralized. Continuing search." Max found the second operative in a similar position 20 minutes later. This one was older, a woman with cold eyes and absolute conviction. She fought when cornered, forcing Sarah into hand-to-hand combat that reopened her stitches. But Sarah's training won out. The operative went down unconscious. 2 down, 2 to go. 20 minutes until the summit's main session begins. The third operative was the most dangerous. He'd heard about the others and was prepared. When Sarah and Max located him in a mechanical tunnel beneath the main auditorium, he was waiting with an automatic weapon. The firefight was brutal. Sarah took cover behind industrial equipment as bullets sparked around her. Max circled, using the confined space to his advantage, but the operative was skilled and disciplined. Sarah knew she couldn't win a direct confrontation. She needed an edge. She pulled a flash grenade from her tactical vest, one of the tools MI6 had provided, and threw it high, bouncing it off the tunnel ceiling. The operative made his critical mistake. He looked at the grenade, tracking its movement. That split second of distraction was all Max needed. The Malinois hit him from the side, 75 pounds of trained aggression driving the man into the concrete wall. Sarah was there in seconds, weapon to the operative's head. "Where's the 4th? Where's the last one?" The operative laughed, blood on his teeth. "Already in position, already deploying. You're too late." Sarah zip-tied him and moved on, Max limping beside her. The dog was running on adrenaline and training now, his injuries clearly causing him pain. But he refused to quit. "Max, one more, last one, Find them. The Malinois's nose went to work again, filtering through the complex scent environment. Then he stopped, looking up at a ceiling vent. Not pointing at the vent itself, but beyond it, above it. Sarah pulled up building schematics on her phone. Above this section of the convention center was the primary air distribution room, the central hub where all the HVAC systems converged. If you wanted to contaminate the entire building with a chemical weapon, that's where you'd do it. Command, I've located the 4th operative. Primary air distribution room, building C, 5th floor. I'm going in. Negative, 007. Wait for backup. ETA, 3 minutes. 3 minutes might as well be 3 hours. Sarah looked at Max, saw the determination in his eyes despite the exhaustion, and made her decision. Copy that, Command. I'm waiting for backup. She keyed off the radio and looked at Max. Let's go, partner. They climbed the access ladder to the 5th floor, emerging into a massive room filled with industrial air handling equipment. The noise was overwhelming. Giant fans, flowing air, mechanical hums that drowned out all other sound. At the center of the room, a figure worked methodically at a control panel. Sarah recognized her from the initial intelligence briefings. Katya, one of Victor's senior lieutenants, former Soviet chemical warfare specialist, true believer, completely dedicated to the cause. Sarah raised her weapon. Katya, step away from the controls. Katya turned, a smile on her face. In her hand was a device, its display counting down. 30 seconds. Too late, Agent Collins. The release sequence is activated. In 30 seconds, the ventilation system will be flooded with what Victor believes is a binary nerve agent. Except, her smile faded as understanding dawned. This is water. This isn't the compound. What did you do? We intercepted and replaced every component you smuggled in, Sarah said, moving closer. The attack failed before it even began. It's over. Katya's expression shifted through emotions, disbelief, rage, and finally, acceptance. Then I've failed. Victor will never forgive failure. Victor is in custody. The entire Syndicate leadership is being rounded up right now. It's finished. No. Katya pulled a different device from her jacket. If the chemical attack won't work, there are other ways to make a statement. The device in her hand was clearly a detonator, and given the Syndicate's access to explosives, Sarah had to assume there were bombs somewhere in the building. Don't do this, Sarah said carefully. There are thousands of people here, innocent people, staff, journalists, security personnel. This isn't the global elite you're targeting. It's everyday people just doing their jobs. Collateral damage, necessary for the greater good. Katya's finger moved toward the detonator button. Max moved faster than Sarah could react. The Malinois launched across the distance, jaws clamping onto Katya's arm. The woman screamed, dropping the detonator. Sarah dove for it, sliding across the concrete floor and snatching it up before it could be activated. Katya fought against Max's grip, pulling a knife with her free hand. She stabbed downward, the blade sinking into Max's shoulder. The dog yelped but held on, refusing to release. Max, release! Sarah commanded, weapon trained on Katya. The dog let go, staggering backward. Blood stained his fur, mixing with the other wounds he'd sustained throughout the day, but his eyes remained focused, still protecting his partner. Katya raised the knife again, but Sarah fired once. The shot took Katya in the leg, spinning her around. She fell, the knife clattering away. The backup team arrived seconds later, securing Katya and sweeping the room for additional threats. Sarah knelt beside Max, her hands shaking as she examined his injuries. You saved my life again, boy, she whispered. How many times is that now? Max's tail wagged weakly, and Sarah felt tears on her face. Tears of relief, exhaustion, and overwhelming gratitude for the partner who'd never let her down. The veterinary specialist arrived within minutes, stabilizing Max for transport to a proper facility. As they carried him out on a stretcher, Sarah followed, refusing to leave his side. Webb found her in the veterinary wing 3 hours later. The summit continued successfully. All Syndicate operatives in custody. Victor is talking, providing intelligence on their international network. The world leaders are safe. You did it, Collins. Sarah looked up from where she sat beside Max's recovery kennel. The Malinois was sleeping, sedated and bandaged, but stable. "We did it," she corrected. "Max and I. We're a team." "About that," Webb pulled out a folder. "I've been reviewing your performance throughout this operation. The infiltration, the intelligence gathering, the tactical decisions under pressure. It's some of the best fieldwork I've seen in 20 years, which is why I'm recommending you for permanent assignment to the International Counterterrorism Task Force." "What about Atlanta PD? What about going back to my old job?" Webb shook his head. "Sarah, you're beyond that now. You've proven you can operate at the highest levels of intelligence work. The world needs agents like you. Agents who understand that protecting people sometimes means working in the shadows." Sarah looked at Max again. 7 years as a cop, 3 months of spy training, 1 month undercover in a terrorist organization. It had been the hardest, most terrifying, most rewarding experience of her life. "I need to think about it," she said finally. "Take your time." "But Sarah, the designation 007 comes with the position. Bond is officially retired. The number needs a new bearer. And I can't think of anyone more qualified." 2 days later, Sarah stood in a conference room at the Joint Intelligence Headquarters in Atlanta. M had flown in personally for the ceremony. Around the table sat representatives from MI6, CIA, FBI, and a dozen other agencies. Bond stood at the front of the room, looking relaxed and satisfied. "Ladies and gentlemen," M began, "we're here to formally recognize the service of an exceptional operative. Agent Sarah Collins successfully infiltrated and dismantled the Syndicate's North American operations, prevented a catastrophic terrorist attack, and did so while maintaining her cover against extraordinary odds. Today, we're here to make official what Commander Bond already designated in the field." Chief Webb stepped forward. "Agent Collins, before we proceed, I need to ask you a question. After everything you've been through, after seeing what this work requires, are you prepared to continue in this role?" Sarah thought about the last month, the lies, the violence, the impossible moral choices. She thought about the young operative she'd been forced to kill. She thought about the lines she'd crossed and could never uncross. Then she thought about the thousands of lives saved, the families who'd never know how close they came to losing their loved ones. The world leaders who'd continued their summit unaware of the danger that had been prevented, and she thought about Max, recovering in the next room, who'd stood beside her through it all. "I'm ready," Sarah said. M nodded to Webb. "Then I believe you have a question to ask her, Chief." Webb's expression became formal, official. The entire room fell silent, every eye on Sarah. "Agent Collins, for the record, what is your badge number?" Sarah stood straighter, meeting Webb's gaze directly. Around the room, agents who'd worked with Bond for decades held their breath. This was the moment, the official transfer of a legendary designation, the passing of a legacy from one generation to the next. 007, Sarah said clearly. The room went completely silent. It wasn't shock, exactly. Everyone here knew this moment was coming. But there was still something profound about hearing those numbers spoken. 07. The designation that had become synonymous with excellence, courage, and unwavering dedication to protecting the innocent. And now it belonged to a 33-year-old former K-9 officer from Atlanta. A woman who'd never expected to become a spy. An agent who'd brought something new to the role, a partner who'd redefined what operational excellence looked like. Bond broke the silence with applause. "Well done, 007. The number suits you." The room erupted in applause. M stepped forward, presenting Sarah with a small case. Inside was the Walther PPK she'd been given in London, along with official credentials that identified her as Agent 007, authorized for international operations across all participating intelligence services. "You've earned this," M said quietly. "But remember, the number comes with expectations. You'll face challenges that push you beyond anything you've experienced. You'll make decisions no one should have to make. And you'll do it all while knowing that the world's safety depends on you making the right call." "I understand. I believe you do." Now go rest. When Max is recovered, you both have another assignment waiting. There's a situation developing in Berlin that requires your particular expertise. As the ceremony concluded and people began filing out, Bond approached Sarah. Walk with me? They moved to a balcony overlooking downtown Atlanta. The city stretched out before them, millions of people going about their lives, completely unaware of what had almost happened here. How does it feel? Bond asked. Surreal. Terrifying. Like I'm wearing shoes that are too big for me. Bond smiled. That's exactly how I felt when I got the number. But here's the secret. It's not about the number. It's not about living up to expectations or becoming some legendary figure. It's about doing the work, protecting people, making the hard calls. You've already proven you can do all of that. With Max's help. Yes, and that's what makes you unique. Every 007 brings something different to the role. I brought experience and a certain ruthlessness, I suppose. You bring something I never had, a partner who makes you better, who grounds you, who reminds you what you're fighting for. Sarah looked back toward the recovery room where Max slept. I can't imagine doing this work without him. Then don't. The two of you are the future of intelligence work. Traditional spies like me, we're becoming obsolete. The world needs operatives who can blend human judgment with technological capabilities. You and Max represent that evolution. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the city. Bond, Sarah said finally, thank you for choosing me, for training me, for believing I could do this. I didn't choose you, Sarah. I simply recognized what was already there. The courage, the skills, the character, those were always part of who you are. I just gave you a larger stage to demonstrate them. He extended his hand. From one 007 to another. Good luck, and try not to destroy too many of Q Branch's gadgets. They get irritable about that. Sarah shook his hand firmly. I'll do my best. That's all any of us can do. 3 weeks later, Sarah sat in the passenger seat of an MI6 vehicle, heading to the airport for her flight to Berlin. Max sat in the back, fully recovered and wearing his advanced tactical harness. The mission briefing had been thorough. An arms dealer operating in the German capital, connections to several terrorist organizations, and intelligence suggesting an attack was being planned. Exactly the kind of work a 007 specialized in. Her phone buzzed with a text from Bond. Remember, trust your instincts and your partner. Everything else is negotiable. Good hunting. JB. Sarah smiled and typed back, will do. Thanks for everything. As the vehicle navigated through Atlanta traffic, Sarah looked at Max in the rearview mirror. The Malinois met her eyes, and she saw the same determination and loyalty that had defined their partnership for 7 years. 7 years as a cop. Now something more, not better or worse, just different, larger scale, higher stakes, but the same core mission: protect the innocent, stop the bad guys, and come home safe. Ready for Berlin, boy? Max's tail wagged once. Sarah nodded. Yeah, me too. The vehicle merged onto the highway, heading toward whatever challenges waited in Germany. Behind them, Atlanta continued its rhythm, a city that would never know how close it came to catastrophe. Thousands of people living their lives, protected by agents they'd never meet, doing work that could never be acknowledged. That was fine with Sarah. She hadn't become 07 for recognition or glory. She'd become 007 because someone needed to stand between the innocent and those who would do them harm, because someone needed to make the hard calls, take the dangerous missions, and bear the weight of impossible choices, and because she had a partner who'd never let her down. The new era of 07 had begun, and the world was safer for it.